I actually went to Austria the other day where I used to go on vacation, and I walked up the mountain the exact path I used to take as a kid, and it literally looks the same. It's incredible.
Well, thank you for your time, Jörg. It's an honor for me also to talk about Flight
Ah,
Simulator because I'm also an aviation geek and a frequent traveler, so I really love
awesome.
planes and flights. Yeah, for real.
Here, look, I have planes everywhere. Brrr. I'm like literally in my life.
So, well, first I would like to know, reflecting on the series from 2020 when it was released, like Flight Simulator, like a reboot back in the time in 2020, until now, which ones do you think are the biggest advancements in the series?
Oh, from 2020 to this new one, you
Yeah.
mean? Oh, I think the first one is probably not what you expect. I think the way the sim is made has changed. So basically, if you look behind me, right, the series goes back to 1982, and it was always a development team making a sim and putting it out, and then people were playing it. And what happened with 2020, we did the same. Like we had a team working on it for 6 years or something. But then something changed, and that it was the community engagement that's completely different. So this community of Flight Sim fans has, obviously emerged. After Flight Sim 10, there was a pause of 15 years, and the community self-organized, and all kinds of companies were founded. And I think that's really influenced us. Like, so we changed our development model from a kind of an insular game making model to a, hey, let's listen to what the community wants and needs and what the feedback is. And much of what we're doing in Flight Sim 2024 is actually a direct reaction to community feedback. And we basically, so it was like 2 years in or something, we looked at like who had been playing Flight Sim 2020. And it turns out, so at that time we were at 12 million people. And 3 million of them self-identified as core simmers. 3 million of them identified as core gamers. And 6 million, we label them digital tourists. And they are completely different objectives. Like the first group flies from airport to airport with airliners. The second group just wants to have fun. And the third group actually appreciates the planet most. Like they're actually a little bit afraid of airplanes. So basically, we listened to all of them and what are their needs. And the first group really wanted better flight model, more physics, better ground handling, those types of things, more avionics, all that kind of stuff. And then the digital tourists, of course, wanted a prettier planet, specifically close to the ground, because the air looked nice, the clouds were nice, but when you landed on the ground, it was pretty simple, let's just say, in 2020. And then everyone, all three groups said, can we have more to do? Can we just have more to do? Because at some point you go into the sandbox of Flight Sim and it doesn't give you any structure, but it was really just, fly around and find your own fun. And in this case, we said we're going to give something to do for everyone. So we came up with this career system that's basically for everyone. It's very much based on authentic careers in the real world of aviation. Then we have some competitive things like air racing and stuff, and that is really a nod to the gamers that like to have high scores and those types of things. And then we have something called a world photographer mode, where you really just go around the planet and you photograph. And the photographer mode, what it does is you basically get objectives that say, photograph the 10 greatest houses of worship in the world, or like the tallest mountains. And what's nice about that, specifically for the digital tourist, is you learn about the planet as you're doing it. So those are big changes, and obviously all these areas require tons of innovation. So the flight model is by far more complex than it has ever been. But as far as visually speaking, I would say the ground has changed the most. We have increased the resolution 4,000 times. In Flight Sim 2020, we had basically sort of a height field. It was like about a meter resolution per height point. Now it's a few millimeters, and we have every little rock, every single thing you can possibly imagine on Earth. And that changes how you fly, because we used to be able to just land anywhere with a plane. Now you have to pay attention because there's rocks on the ground and you break your plane. Or when you land on the water, you have to pay attention to the waves because the waves collide now. So if you go against the waves, your plane will flip over. So it's fundamental change, and it was technologically huge.
Yeah, that's totally true. And well, from a developer point of view, how do you balance the expectations of all of that big community you have? Because you mentioned simmers, gamers,
Yeah,
and digital tourists that they expect something totally different from
I
the
think you're
games.
right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, there is no magic solution. We grew the team. So the original, the 2020 sim was made by 100 people. We now have 800. So that's really the answer. We have dedicated
Yeah.
teams that just work on those types of areas. We have, I think, 250 artists that just work on world content. We added ships. There's ships now on the oceans. We have a data feed that gives us a transponder signal of every ship on Earth every 30 seconds. And so we modeled a whole bunch of ships. We modeled oil platforms everywhere, all 1,000 oil platforms on this planet. We created every glider airport that exists, so sailplanes, there's 2,000 of those, 80,000 helipads. So we invested a huge amount. And then on the environment side, we created hundreds of trees, bushes, just to make the world richer. And then we created biomes to make sure that it's actually the right species of trees. And then just because it's fun, we also added animals everywhere. So there's like, I have a friend of mine who runs a company called Frontier Development. They make a game called Planet Zoo. So I called him up and said, hey, I'm working on Flight Sim. Can I get all your animals? And he said, oh yeah, sure. So we added all the Planet Zoo animals, and then we added a bunch of cows and goats and all this stuff. And there's billions of animals now across the world. And that's fun, right? When you land, you get actually surprised. When we fly around right now, I was just in Canada yesterday, landed in some random town in Canada, and there was a moose walking through the street. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. It makes the world feel alive, which I think is great.
And well, you also mentioned the addition of animals and new animal behavior. But what can you say about the new weather features, like weather phenomena? Because this new entry is also more realistic in that way.
Yeah, so the lighting has completely changed. So we had nice lighting in 2020, but what we now have is what's called photometric lighting. So basically it uses lux information. Like we know how strong the sun rays really are, and we refract them in the atmosphere. And what you have now is a really full physical lighting, and it looks pretty much exactly like the real world because we're doing the same calculation like physically happen in the atmosphere. So that is where you see images look like the lower side of clouds, for example. Now they are lit correctly, and it's based on refraction instead of just making them dark gray, which what we had in 2020. So the appearance of clouds is very different. And then we added a few things. We added tornadoes. There was a time when we thought we could do real-time tornadoes. We're like, oh yeah, we'll get real-time tornado data and we'll draw the tornadoes where they are. And then we talked to a bunch of weather people, and they said, yeah, if we could know where the tornadoes are, the world would be a safer place. So nobody knows where the tornadoes are. So we actually are spawning them around big storm systems, but it's not exactly precise, right? Because they happen when they happen. But so tornadoes were added. We added new types of clouds. We added cirrus clouds, higher upper atmosphere. And I think that's mostly it. We increased the resolution of the clouds a little bit.
And I guess many of these new features were also asked by the community, for, I don't know, months or many years.
Oh, yeah.
How's the process of listening to the community and up the road until you implement a feature in the game?
Yeah. So we have our own website, flightsimulator.com. There are forums that we have. I go there pretty much every day. Then we have a community team that reads everything in the forums, and they write reports. And then they send the reports over to me and say, hey, here's the top topics that are coming up right now. And then we review all those ideas. I have done almost every week something called feedback snapshot. So basically I get there's a voting thing where you can vote for features. And we write that down, here are the votes. And then we say, okay, we're working on it. This is not started yet. This is in progress. And then we try to update the community what is coming when. So it's very transparent. And then every about 4 to 6 weeks, we have what we call a dev Q&A. The developer Q&A, it's basically the lead developer, Sebastian, myself, and the lead producer, Marcial. And we sit there and have a direct interaction with the community. There's chats. They ask questions. We answer the questions. So We're trying to be as transparent as you can be in the development.
And are there any like technologies or features that you are excited to like try and explore in future games?
Oh, for sure. The list is long, I would say. I mean, there's very interesting stuff going on. We didn't do a whole ton with AI in this one. The AI helps us build the world, but basically we use some, because it's 3 trillion trees. I mean, there's no human that can click 3 trillion times, right? It's not possible. So it was very usable for that. There are lots of pilots that would like us to do a good co-pilot, like a really smart co-pilot person that you can get help from, because that's how real aviation works, right? You sit there, there's 2 people, oftentimes, sometimes 3, helping each other. And in Flight Sim right now, we have to simplify that. We actually take a lot of that over in the computer, but it's better to do, there's 2 things, both multiplayer, so we call that shared cockpit. That is something we absolutely want to do for the future. And then also, can we get some digital entities sitting next to you to actually help you flying? Because that's like the instructor in your first mission. That's what you want. Somebody who actually helps you out. So I think there's things like that. And there's tons and tons of features that we want to do in the future. But the world is large, I would say. There's infinite amounts of things. I jokingly always said I wanted to collect butterflies. I know. Because so the world looks so good now that you can walk around the plane. I actually went to Austria the other day, where I used to go on vacation, and I walked up the mountain, the exact path I used to take as a kid, and it literally looks the same. It's incredible. And then what do you do in the real world? You look at flowers. That's what I did. So why not? So we can take the world simulation much further than we are now.
Mm-hmm. And last question, which is the aspect of Flight Simulator 2024 that you are most proud of?
I'm most proud of the interaction with the community, because I don't know how much you know about the Flight Sim community. A lot of these people, it's their main hobby in life, and they know so much about it. Like, for example, there's a group that did, for 20 years, that they figured out how to get ships to go in Flight Sim. It was simple. It's not, they don't have tons of money or something, but they have passion. And we partnered with them. I basically said, hey, if somebody wants to work with us, let's work together. So they came in, they're very proud that they're contributing. And this is really, I called it, we're making this product for the community, but also with the community. And I think that to me is the biggest step forward, because now it's not just one team, however few hundred people you have, it's thousands of people all over the world trying to help make this the perfect sim. And I think it's beautiful in a way, and I think it's a great way to make a product like this.
Well, thank you for your time.
Likewise, it was fun.